Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This is actually a video response to Ben, aka TRexSpaceStation, here on YouTube. Every now and then he does a series of videos for the community in which he picks like 5 different topics, and you're allowed to briefly talk about five different games in your collection. And I think they're pretty fun because you don't necessarily have to talk about your favorite games in your collection, but it allows you to just freely choose 5 games in your collection that fit his criteria, and then you can briefly talk about each one of them. So I decided to participate, and I will be leaving a link in the description below if you guys want to check out his original video and do a video response, or check out his channel. He's a pretty cool guy. So without further ado, his 5, I guess, topics for the games were to pick a on-rail shooter. And he ended up picking, he picked a Wii game, and I thought it was only fitting to also pick another Wii game. After all, the Wii was a pretty interesting console in the sense that a lot of light gun shooters and on-rail shooters were developed for the system because of the nature of the controls, the Wii mode and whatnot. So I decided to go with this arcade classic here, Ghost Squad, published by and developed by Sega, I believe. And this game is just wacky fun. It has all that cheesiness of the light gun Sega arcade games, and I thought I had a lot of fun playing this. It's a pretty short game, obviously. It was originally released in the arcades, and then obviously it got this Nintendo Wii port. So it's a fun game. You can unlock costumes, and I believe the Wii version even has like an online, not online play, but you can upload your high scores and whatnot to compare against the world. Yeah, Ghost Squad, a very fun light gun shooter type of game, and it's funny because you can unlock like crazy costumes and whatnot. So the game doesn't take itself very seriously, and it's a very fun on rails type of shooter game. His second topic was a first-person shooter, so many games to pick from, but I decided to go with a choice from the Nintendo 64, and that is Quake 64. Now, I'm not a huge fan of this particular game per se, but I do have a lot of memories of my older brother playing Quake 64. And in fact, my older brother, he was very, his favorite genre is basically first-person shooters. And I remember him playing Quake 64, Doom 64, Duke Nukem 64. You know, it was funny how the Nintendo 64 got all those old school like PC first-person shooters, and my older brother, he used to love playing them. And I remember Quake was probably the favorite out of that bunch, and he would just play this game over and over again in the hardest difficulty. He knew all the patterns, all the locations of the enemies, and I used to watch him play, obviously, and nothing against Quake. Obviously, I love Quake, but my older brother, he was kind of like obsessed with this game. So I thought it was fitting to pay homage to this game, and to me watching my older brother play this on the Nintendo 64. Now, obviously, the Nintendo 64 version is missing some content, I believe, when compared to the original PC version. But at the same time, I think it added some other secret areas, and I think the UI was slightly tweaked on the Nintendo 64 version. So there are some pros and cons as far as this particular version. But yeah, my choice for a first-person shooter game to talk in this video response is Quake 64. The next topic he chose was an open world game, and we're gonna fast forward to modern times, and I decided to go with The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which is obviously one of the most talked about games of 2017, and I personally love this game. I think it's a masterpiece, and I decided to bring this game up because I thought it was very interesting on how Nintendo, they've never really done a proper open world game up until this point, and I think it's pretty amazing that for them to have that first try, that first foray into the open world genre, they knocked it out of the park with this game. As you guys know, this game got a record number of perfect reviews. The reviews of these games are like 10 out of 10, hundreds out of hundreds, and I do agree with that sentiment, because this is really one of those games that you feel it'll be a masterpiece. Like years from now, even decades from now, I think this game will be talked about. So a lot of props to Nintendo for getting their feet wet basically in a brand new genre, and then knocking out of the park with this particular game. So I still haven't played the DLC, so I do have to purchase that and try that out, because this game was just fantastic, and any excuse to go back and play this game is much appreciated on my end. So The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild for the Nintendo Switch, my choice for a open world game in my collection. I believe the next choice was a violent or gory game, and I had to go back to the Nintendo Wii, which is pretty interesting. How Nintendo systems and consoles, they only had that that quote unquote kiddie image, and I think it was funny when the Nintendo Wii era came in. A lot of developers and publishers were just trying to cater to this unexplored, like mature and gory and violent games. And I think, in a way, Mad World kind of led the efforts back then. Sega, they just, they hired Platinum Games to do this, and they just went all out, or all in, as far as, providing a violent game. And just to, I feel like developers and publishers back then, they were just trying to make a, like an impression that we can make violent games for the Wii, and we have games like this one and the No More Heroes games, which are also pretty bloody, and there's blood all over the place and whatnot. So a couple of violent games that were released back then on the Nintendo Wii, and Mad World, obviously, it's one that led the charge. And this game is over the top as far as the different types of executions you can do in the game. And to top everything off, this game is actually really good and really fun. I actually got this on day one, even though a lot of the reviews were saying it's a really, really short game, which is true. But in my opinion, it does have a lot of replay value. This game feels like almost like an arcade beat 'em up, where you can just play each level for a longer and extended period of time, and just try to rack up combos and different types of executions. And I think what I really liked about this game is the art direction. This game is basically like a black and white comic book when you're playing the game, and obviously the blood in the game, it's red. So it's a pretty big contrast with the black and white backgrounds. When you see the blood, when you execute the enemies and whatnot, I think it really stands out. So Mad World on Nintendo Wii, a game that I really, really enjoyed. It's actually one of my favorite Platinum games. And it was a fun game, short but sweet, and definitely one of those games that it's worth checking out if you own a Nintendo Wii. And last but not least, I think the last topic was a game with an animal on it. And the easiest thing would have been to just cater back to the old school days, the 16-bit era, where every publisher or studio had a mascot platforming game. But I do want to mention this game, which is a current generation game that kind of caters to that sentiment of back from the 16-bit era, and it's Super Lucky Tale. And I have not played this game yet. I bought it on during Black Friday for a reduced price, and I am excited to play this because I like platformers, and this is a 3D platformer. But the reason why I wanted to mention this in this video is because of the just to give props to Microsoft for publishing this game. It's kind of like a risky thing to do nowadays, to invest your money in a mascot, a platformer, because obviously it's not a genre that people are flocking, to the store to purchase games in that particular genre. So props to Microsoft and the developers, which I guess it's Playful, for creating an old school type of game, and everything from the typical depiction of a mascot to the title of the game. The word super added in front of the name of the game. I think it's just this game caters. It's kind of like a homage to the old days where mascots were basically each studio had a mascot in a platforming game out there. So I'm really happy that they decided to put this game out, especially on the physical version here with the disc in it. And like I said, I haven't played this. I've heard this game is pretty difficult actually. But it's supposed to be also fun at the same time. So I'm looking forward to playing this at one point or another. I think Super Mario Odyssey kind of spoiled my enjoyment of 3D platformers out there, because I was playing also Yooka-Laylee, which is another animal or mascot based platformer, and it's hard to go back to that game. I was pretty close to being done with the game, and now that I played Super Mario Odyssey, that game kind of like defined the level of polish as far as quality. But that's another topic for itself. Yeah, that's the last game, the last topic T-Rex Space Station had. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Either let me know what your choices would be in this 5 different topics, or go to his original video and feel free to do a video response to Ben. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all later.